Elon Musk is not afraid of the coronavirus. Well, how do I know? Because he tried having his Fremont factory here in California continue running despite the shelter-in-place order for all of us here, especially in his county in particular. He ended up negotiating a deal with the sheriffs, and Tesla will end up shutting down the production of the cars. But there's more to the story. I'll have Eli Burton join me in just a few minutes for his segment Supercharged with Eli Burton, and he'll give you guys the full scoop of what's been happening. But also, Elon Musk has been criticized for some of the tweets that he's been putting out and continues to put out that people believe is essentially misinformation about the virus itself. Now, let me just give you just one example, and we'll look at some others. So here's one of the tweets that people are talking about. He essentially pulled up this graph and said that growth rate of confirmed COVID-19 cases is dropping every day despite 10x increase in testing. From Tuesday to today was 43, 24, 17. Track this chart. Well, I figured, okay, I will track this chart and I'll check it out. Well, here's what the chart actually says. You know, the chart tracks the cases on onset. And as you can see, because it takes, the incubation period takes about 5 days to actually, you know, to know that the person even has this. As you can see right there on the chart, it says illnesses that began during this time may not yet be reported, and that's how those things grow. And now we know they have grown. So this is something that Elon could have figured out on his own, and yet he put this out, and it's definitely can be considered to be a misinformation about the virus. Now, I wonder if this is something that he's doing as two separate things, trying to continue running the factory for the sake of the company, and then also support his claims with some of the tweets that he's doing, or those are completely two different things for him. I'll ask Eli for his guess, but before I bring him in, let me quickly pay my bills here and let you know that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out their all-electric SUV called M-Byte, coming to the United States and Europe next year. Don't forget to reserve yours today. You'll use the description of this video. There's a link there. And of course, 7X, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. Use E4Electric as a discount code for purchases over $100. All right, without further ado, let me bring in Eli. And Eli, let us know what is the latest here on the whole Tesla drama, the factory, and the tweets.
Yeah, sorry, I was just on my phone to make sure I didn't miss any tweets while you were doing your intro.
Good point.
It's been an interesting week this week, and it started with the week of the first report about, you know, Tesla's role as being a critical agency was that Tesla was in fact a critical agency and they wouldn't be shutting down. And within 24 hours, we find out that flips. We then get the Alameda County Sheriff involved, and they're saying that no, Tesla isn't a critical agency. So we've now got conflicting statuses on Tesla from these agencies. Ultimately, ended up that Elon had a conversation, negotiated with the Sheriff's Department, and Tesla is going to stop production on Monday and go to just minimal staff needed to keep the company operating. So where we're at now is Tesla will be shutting down the factory as of Monday. And unfortunately, this was something I predicted on your show 2 weeks ago, Alex. We talked about that when again, this was a topic that you're like, you didn't want to do, but I said, man, you got to look at it.
I know.
They do this in China. They're going to have to do it here. And people were watching this video, watching the video, were saying it was fake news. Guys, this is unfortunate, but as we watch what happened in China play out, the U.S. is taking the same measures to try and stop this thing. And of course, you're going to have to shut down a factory where tens of thousands of people work in close proximity. It only makes sense. Now, it's really a bummer, especially being as a shareholder and a Tesla fan, but a lot of places else are having to shut down too. So it's all just part of the game right now.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be a really that big of a deal. And you said yes. And I said, hey, that's your segment, so let's do it. And this is why I have you on the show.
And I didn't just say yes. I said yes, and I went and put shorts on the market that are going to help me stay funded while I'm unemployed.
Excellent, excellent. Well, okay, so let's digest here. So at first, Elon said, listen, we're at essential. We're producing something essential, which is cars. And then I guess there were differences of opinion between different agencies. But bottom line, they had to negotiate with the Sheriff's Department that they will stop the production. Is that pretty much, am I getting this correctly?
That's correct. They're going to stop production Monday and go to just minimal staffing for basic operations. It will no longer be in full operation.
Right. Now, I think most people would agree that it is a kind of a BS statement to say that, you know, the world needs more Teslas right now, and it's an essential service just like bread, food, water, you know.
I agree. And that's why, honestly, people were surprised initially when Tesla got certified by local government as essential. And my initial take was, I wonder if it was the job component of it, that they needed to keep these people like employed because there's such a large footprint there. And Tesla being a manufacturing of physical products, a lot of that company is not a remote possible work. So that was my initial take. But yeah, I was also surprised too. Now, somebody on your live stream today brought up something very interesting. How can these cars be repaired and fixed and serviced for people who drive them, who may be driving to their essential jobs, if the car manufacturer can't make car parts?
Exactly. And this goes beyond Tesla, right? Let's say I have a car that I use to get to my work. I work for a restaurant, let's say. I don't have that much savings. I can't just, you know, not do my work. And, you know, my car broke. And I go to a mechanic and they say, well, you need a part. And guess what? The factory is shut down. To me, that's an essential service. And I don't even know if they're handling it that way, right? One thing is making new cars. Another thing is making parts to fix the existing cars.
100%. And also Tesla, there's other car factories that have not shut down. Tesla is not like Tesla's is closing down, but there's other factories in the car factories in this country that are not yet had any announcements or any official rulings on their closure. So some people are going to still get their car parts, but if there's parts that need to be manufactured by Tesla, they're going to have to wait.
Well, we agree that parts is just, I mean, especially essential parts, then we definitely need them out there. Now, I want to make sure that people also know the Chinese factory is actually back on in service, correct?
Yeah, they're fully back online. China released an article came out of the New York Times yesterday that Elon tweeted that China's saying no new cases of coronavirus in the country. And where the rest of the world is kind of waiting to see is, we don't really trust China on these things because China has not been forthcoming with data in the past. They were not forthcoming early on in this crisis, which allowed it to become worse than it should have been globally. So unfortunately, we kind of have to just kind of dismiss what they're saying and wait till it proves itself out in countries like Europe. So right now, the world's paying really close attention to Italy, who is the deepest into this. So where Italy goes in the next 4 or 5 days is going to be very telling.
Yeah. All right. No. So now let's talk about something that's even more controversial than this. You know, Elon has tweeted out, and you know, I was very hard on Elon a couple of years ago, and then lately I thought he was actually becoming. You know, we were getting our Elon back. His all overall behavior and tweets were just fine. And he's definitely disappointed me this week. So I've already showed one tweet where he's obviously was misleading people.
You get disappointed easily, Alex.
I do get disappointed easily by my idols. You know, if he was somebody I didn't like at all, you know, if he was like Sean Hannity, for example, I wouldn't be that upset. I really like Elon. I think he's one of the most important people in the world. So when he does stuff like this, that's why I get disappointed so easily, right? And so, but you know, the chart that I showed you, he also tweeted out, and I'll show you that tweet as well. Is that he basically said that kids are essentially immune, but elderly with existing conditions are vulnerable. You know,
so the net of that statement, though, is correct. I mean, kids can catch this thing, that is true. But when you actually look at the cases of children becoming hospitalized or fatalities or any of the serious consequences of this infection, it is almost flat zero. It is like 0.000 something. Like, children are practically unaffected by this.
Well, you can't.
That is one of the upsides. Not that people dying is good.
Okay.
But man, anything that takes out children makes it exponentially worse.
Right. And well, first of all, you can't have it both ways, right? Just let's be fair. You can't say we don't trust statistics coming out of China and then rely on.
We've got Italy. We've got Italy's data too.
Well,
we've got places in Europe that are being affected.
Italy's not the best example because most of their population is elderly, and the province of Italy where most of the deaths are happening are elderly population, very few kids. But let's get back to like facts here, right? Kids are essentially not immune. Would you agree that kids are not immune? You wouldn't send your daughter to school right now, would you? right?
No, I would not send her to school. And kids can catch it. I think the key is that kids are showing to not really be affected by the negative, like to really not be affected by the big negative risks of this virus. That the risks of this virus are to the elderly. All the data we suggest is that kids are not the kid. The concern is not kids catching it. The current concern is the older folks and the immunocompromised people in our population.
Right, but I'm just going by.
I think I think it was a poor choice of words by saying immune.
Right. Well, and it'll also be clear that Dr. Elon Musk is as much of a doctor as Dr. Dre or Dr. Pepper is a doctor, right? This is not his place to talk about medical facts like immunity from a virus. Which can we agree on that?
Well, I mean, giving in the context that he's not giving, I mean, I don't actually know. I don't agree with that. Anybody can commentate on this, and a lot of people are. And I believe this tweet led off with, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but no, and this one it didn't.
I'm definitely showing you the tweet.
You're right. So, no, people absolutely have to give commentary on it. And I don't think what he said is far off that it's any risk to public health and safety. I mean, look at the recommendation that he's making there. We've got to keep this away from the elderly and the sick.
Well, okay, but this, don't you think at this point when we need to have advice and there's a lot of different information out there, is ibuprofen good or bad? We really need to just listen to the professionals, which are doctors. And the CEO of car companies, no matter how genius they are making cars and changing the world, should probably rely on that. And I even showed you the chart. You don't have to be a doctor or even that smart to see that chart and the statement that he concluded out of the chart were simply misleading. Would you agree with that?
I actually did not follow that chart previously to you just showing it here.
Okay,
but the way
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up. So here's the chart, right? So here's the chart, and this is the chart of onset cases, meaning like there has to be an onset of your virus, and it has to be reported. But so as you know, there's a few days until people even know, right? Now it's there. On the chart, it says
this graph now and see if those bars significantly rose. That's interesting that they're not yet reported. Do we have any type of data what the lag time is on when those get reported?
Well, yeah, usually it's at least 4 or 5 days on average with
Okay, so that was 5 days ago. So we got to look at that data now. I'd love to see that chart because that chart was from the 15th. I'd love to see that chart now on the 20th and see if it's rose.
Right. Well, we know that cases are rising. Like, I mean, that's we have those charts.
The percentage is what.
We know that there. I mean, I look at these numbers every day. I'm just as concerned. What I'm saying is, so let me show you the actual tweet, right? So basically, he said growth rate of confirmed C19 cases is dropping every day, despite increase in testing, right? So don't you think this is misleading to say that the growth rate of confirmed cases?
You referred to the growth rate by percentage, not by number of cases. So no, I don't think it's misleading.
But that's not the chart. That is not showing that at all. That chart is essentially dead in the last 4 or 5 days, and that lag has to actually continue going in time in order for the actual cases to show up. When people get tested. Only
if we're going to keep debating this one, I think we need the chart from March 20th. So.
All right. Well, we'll let everybody look up, but I have followed this chart for a few days. Now let me throw another tweet at you, which is actually a positive one here. And Elon said that and I believe this is Tesla and SpaceX, we're working on ventilators, even though I think there will not be a shortage by the time we can make enough to matter. So it looks like they are going to be making them, or I believe they're making them right now.
They are, yeah. Elon, about 4 hours ago on Twitter, said SpaceX is working on ventilators as well. So SpaceX and Tesla are both making ventilators to provide to places needing a shortage.
All right.
Which is awesome.
So I think it is awesome, and I really hope he's right on this one, where by the time they can make them, that we won't be needing them. Though it's better. I'm glad they're making them, and I think there are a few other companies.
It's better safe than sorry on this because people's lives are at stake.
Yeah. So now one last thing I kind of wanted to get your opinion on. So obviously he wanted the factory to continue going with making cars. He obviously is probably the most optimistic person, maybe besides our president, about what's happening with the coronavirus. Do you think these two are connected? Do you think he's trying to make a case that the factory should be open? Or do you think these are just kind of a completely separate things and he's just expressing his opinion regardless of whether or not he wants the factory to continue to be open.
I think it's impossible to say that there's no influence on him, that he's got a factory being affected by this. But from my understanding of Elon is he's a very purely rational engineering, logical oriented type guy. And based upon the way things have recovered in China, if what we're finding is indeed the correct, and Elon likely has much better insights to that than we do, right? He's got a factory in China. He has people actually in China who can report to him on the ground what's going on. And I guarantee you he has information that the US public has not seen. So based on the way things went in China, he may be right that the fear of this entire thing is overblown and this thing is going to wrap itself up really quickly. So no, I do think his feelings about these things are completely separate. And I never saw him publicly even advocating that like Tesla's critical, we must stay open, blah, blah, blah. I also think he really doesn't like panic. I think he's made that very clear, not just because he put it on Starman's Roadster, but that he doesn't believe panic is a useful human function. And I actually agree with him. I think panicking in these situations is the worst thing you can do because you're giving up control and just responding to baser instincts.
Yeah, I totally agree. I believe even when we talked a couple of weeks ago when people were still kind of figuring out what's going on, and I said, I'm not really afraid of viruses much. I think I'll be okay even if I get it. I'm more afraid of the panic and all of a sudden, look, empty shelves, no toilet paper, lockdown and all of that stuff.
I mean, we went from the best economy we've had in decades to almost an immediate recession in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And one that is going to take a while for the world to crawl back out of. Like, it's just going to be that way.
Yeah. Though, again, I'm still going to stick with the whole thing where I'd prefer that doctors would be giving us medical advice and using facts, and Elon Musk would stick to...
Well, let's give him credit on this, by the way. 4 days before the president came on national television to announce that, hey, there's this drug we discovered that's used to treat malaria that can be used to treat coronavirus victims to decrease the symptoms. Guess what Elon had tweeted out 4 days before saying, hey, this drug looks like a really good candidate to help. It was exactly that. It was the two drugs that Elon was talking about.
All right.
Let's give him some credit here. He put this out there. Who knows? He may have been even the reason why the FDA looked at it.
That would be great. But, being a few days ahead of the president, I'm not really sure if you're setting the bar way too high on this. Again, neither one of our doctors. But yeah, listen, I really hope he actually is right about everything.
Me too.
But I still believe that the facts that presented are simply just untrue, and he really should stay away from just that part of it, right? Like I'd rather have him be a leader in different ways and comfort people and take care of his employees rather than post stuff like this. But that's why you're here. We agree to disagree, and
I think ultimately
decides.
the safest thing to do is just stay out of the conversation entirely, but that's not Elon.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right, well, listen, again, this is something that I'm sure we'll talk about again. Thanks for hanging out on my live stream, by the way. I'll try to do a few of those. So, stay well, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, guys, of course, don't forget to pick up and support Eli's project of the... I have both of them here, my Tesla Adventure and the latest one, the Big Oil Strikes Back. The link is in the description of this video. And of course, to his my Tesla Adventure, amazing club. Unfortunately, there won't be events for a while because of this, but I've always enjoyed hanging out with them. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel because we do this pretty much every week. Looking forward to your comments. I'm sure none of them are going to be rude or Alex, you hate Tesla, but I'm looking forward to them anyway. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.